Find more questions and study at your own pace on our website. The link will be in the description. Let's get started. Question 1. You have an Azure subscription that contains several Azure SQL databases and an Azure Sentinel workspace. You need to create a saved query in the workspace to find events reported by Azure Defender for SQL. What should you do? Option A. From Azure CLI, run the Get as Operational Insights Workspace CMDLet. Option B. From the Azure SQL Database Query Editor, create a Transact SQL query. Option C. From the Azure Sentinel Workspace, create a Kusto query language query. Option D. From Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, create a Transact SQL query. To find events reported by Azure Defender for SQL and Azure Sentinel, you should create a Kusto query language query from the Azure Sentinel workspace. Azure Sentinel uses Kusto query language for querying data, which is specifically designed for large datasets and log data, making it the appropriate choice for this task. Question 2. Your company uses Azure DevOps. You need to recommend a method to validate whether the code meets the company's quality standards and code review standards. What should you recommend implementing in Azure DevOps? Option A. Branch folders. Option B. Branch permissions. Option C. Branch policies. Option D. Branch locking. Branch policies help teams protect their important branches of development. These policies enforce code quality and change management standards by requiring checks and validations, such as pull request reviews, successful builds, and status checks, before changes can be merged into the branch. By implementing branch policies in Azure DevOps, you ensure that the code meets the company's quality standards and code review standards consistently. Question 3. You have been tasked with making sure that you are able to modify the operating system security configurations via Azure Security Center. To achieve your goal, you need to have the correct pricing tier for Azure Security Center in place. Which of the following is the pricing tier required? Option A. Advanced. Option B. Premium. Option C. Standard. Option D. Free. To modify the operating system security configurations via Azure Security Center, the appropriate pricing tier required is the standard tier. The standard tier expands the capabilities of the free tier by providing unified security management and threat protection across various workloads, including additional features such as threat protection, vulnerability scanning, and more. These advanced features make it suitable for modifications to OS security configurations. Question 4. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure Key Vault named Vault 1. In Vault 1, you create a secret named Secret 1. An application developer registers an application in Azure Active Directory. You need to ensure that the application can use Secret 1. What should you do? Option A. In Azure AD, create a role. Option B. In Azure Key Vault, create a key. Option C. In Azure Key Vault, create an access policy. Option D. In Azure AD, enable Azure AD Application Proxy. To ensure that the application can use Secret 1 from Azure Key Vault, you need to create an access policy within Azure Key Vault. Access policies allow you to specify which applications or users can perform specific actions on the secrets, keys, and certificates stored in the vault. In this scenario, assigning the appropriate access policy to the registered application will ensure it has the necessary permissions to retrieve Secret 1. Question 5. You have an Azure subscription that contains a user named User1. You need to ensure that User1 can create managed identities. The solution must use the principle of least privilege. What should you do? Option A. Create a management group and assign User1 the Hybrid Identity Administrator Azure Active Directory role. Option B. Create a management group and assign User1 the Managed Identity Operator role. Option C. Create a resource group and assign User1 to the Managed Identity Contributor role. Option D. Create an organizational unit and assign User1 the User Administrator Azure Active Directory role. To allow User1 to create managed identities while adhering to the principle of least privilege, User1 should be assigned the Managed Identity Contributor role. This role has the necessary permissions to create, read, update, and delete user-assigned managed identities. Assigning a lower privilege role, such as Managed Identity Operator, would not suffice as it does not include permissions to create managed identities. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to check out our website where you can find more questions for this exam. The link will be in the description. Thank you for watching and good luck on your exams.